there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of people who are afraid to talk about this issue, and so they're suffering in silence. What this is about is loving mother and child, and going back to that 76% stat that I talked about before. It is about addressing her needs, and I think so many more people can get on board with that. Roe v. Wade being overturned simply sent the issue back to the states. That's all it did. There's an idea for many people that are pro-life. There has been a sense of apathy that has set in, where abortion is still very legal in 75% of America. And so all Roe v. Wade did was send it back to the state. So on the state level, the work on the state level is vitally important.
I opened up the newspaper, and in the newspaper it said, Black and Latin women lack access to abortion. Basically, this is why we need the bill. And it was signed by all 54 members of the Reproductive Rights Caucus, which I think everyone was white. And so there might've been like one or two Black, but everyone was white. And so I remember reading this and just being like, the clinics are in our community. You start going into our middle schools extremely young. You were set up to be a genocide. This is a lie. And so, and more than it being that abortion was wrong, it was actually, this is a lie and I need to refute this lie. Like, this is actually not the truth. And so I brought it forward to some of my colleagues. I went to some of my colleagues in the BPRC and I said, this is not the truth. This article says we lack access to abortion, and women in the hood are like, and I went through the neighborhoods. No, we don't. The clinic is right there. There's one city in Connecticut where there are clinics every few corners. They're like, we don't lack access. And so I did some heavy research and I prepared. I did not know exactly what I was preparing for, but I knew to prepare. And the day came, I had my iPad with all my notes, and I stood on the floor and just read every single thing, delivered every single thing passionately that I felt that day. And 17 Democrats voted against that bill, and that had never happened before, ever.
What I call the linchpin to a lot of this, in terms of really seeing the unit of the family moving forward, is working with abortion-minded men. And a lot of things that kind of go into that is really just the aspect of being able to understand the influence of men. So when we think through the influence of men and what that means, a lot of times in society, we kind of hear about men being a non-factor or men being a problem when it comes to abortion. And seeing all of those things specifically in impoverished communities and low-income communities that are dealing with fatherlessness, we just got to step in before we expect people to step up. And I think that that's something that I feel like the Lord has given me a passion for in starting a nonprofit called Major League Dad, and being able to help those guys and to walk with guys on a day-to-day basis, and really just seeing a transformation of them understanding their story. And not what that means in terms of the influence that they have if they enter into a crisis pregnancy situation or an abortion situation, and being there for her, but he has somebody that's there for him as well.
But any organization that's in a Black community, I think that one of the major steps that we need to take, especially post-Roe, is to start putting these resources directly in our communities, so that people can begin to move in the direction of life, right? And understand that that carrying a baby to term is not impossible, even in difficult situations. We have to continue to fight on the legislative front and the policy front, but there's a lot to do on the kind of direct service front, and I'd love to see that activity step up even more in Black communities.